with y'all, you know, and she's a great friend of mine, you know. And to be honest, the last time that I remember seeing her was when her oldest son was supposed to be going to Henrico, I think. And I was out there. And so she was coming over there to talk to, was it the track coach or football coach or something. And so I was over there and I seen her walking across. I said, yeah, that's Jeanette, you know. And I ran over there and talked to her then, and that's the last time I remember seeing you, Jeanette. You know, so, but thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Did you expect us to meet people?
No. This is my crew. Let me tell you what we do.
Okay.
What is happening is you know that they're eventually going to be tearing down all of the projects.
Right.
So we're in here essentially to transition the people out of the projects.
Okay.
In other words, we pass out flyers to advertise. You know, we can put you in the Officer Community Wealth Building Program, which will help you to get a job, go to school, go to trade school, and this other situation where you can buy a home, you can, you know, become a home buyer, you can get mortgage loans. You know, you ain't gonna buy a home without a mortgage loan, but the two processes are different, you know. And so getting GEDs, you know, but just basically trying to put yourself in a better life circumstance. And so that's what we do here. We also assist with the RPS virtual learning situation, where, you know, sometimes when you're in the less fortunate communities, when they try to get resources, it's not as simple as it is when you live somewhere else. So we'll knock on doors and they'll say, okay, well, my son's computer is broke, or my daughter's computer, we need, you know, the hotspot is not working, whatever. So we'll match them up with the right resource that will take care of their needs. Okay. And so this is my crew in Wickham. Now we have other crews in all of the other housing, you know, projects. Okay. And so, but they, and you know, we were all in, you know, as the same group. So that's what we do. Okay. And so what I'm asking is, I'm getting a lot of my friends, because I had Mac here last week. Okay. You know, yeah. And so you next.
All right. So yeah, I would like to hear everybody's name.
Yeah.
My name is Natasha Green.
You know mine.
Teresa.
Yes.
Benton Richardson.
Okay.
Shaheen. No, my name is Shaheen Goss. Shaheen Goss.
Okay.
Lola Horton.
Kivette.
Okay.
And George Green.
Brother George.
That's what they've been calling me for years, right?
Brother George, that's right. That's right. All right. Ooh, I gotta let this loose though.
I know the feeling, honey.
I'm gonna die.
I know it, right?
Especially if I'm gonna speak, okay? Try to slide over a little bit so you don't have to worry about me.
Hello, how you doing?
This is
Tell her your name.
My name is Tamisha Shelton. I go by Nicole.
All right,
I have
Nicole.
one child, and this is my home.
All right, so whenever I tell my testimony, as that's what I call it, I like to go back generations because generational hurt is real, individually, and then as Black people collectively, that's a whole other story.
Exactly.
Talking about generational trauma. But I like to go back there. I'm very transparent and real and honest. So after I finish, you have questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll tell you. But I go back to my mother was born in North Carolina, and she ended up staying in North Carolina for a while. When her mother was forced to come to Richmond after her husband at the time, my mother's father, was extremely abusive, physically, emotionally. Like she was pregnant like 7 or 8 times, only carried 5 of them. 2 of them was born dead, and you know, she had miscarriages, but he was very, very mean to her. So by the time my mom and her sister came here to Richmond, my grandmother, of course, was a single mother at the time, but she ended up being an alcoholic. So my mother's furthest education is 8th grade, and she dropped out of school and became a gang member. So that's my mom. So I was born at, she was 15 years old, so she got pregnant with me, and my father was 21. So of course, you know, that was a very estranged relationship. Not really a relationship, but more of like a sexual thing going on. So by the time my mom was 21 years old, she had 3 children, by 3 different men, and we lived in Hillside Court, Jackson Ward, Dove Court. Like I was raised around them all. So by the time I was 8 years old, my mother was addicted to heroin.
Okay.
So here I am, the oldest child. My mom was a heroin addict, moved a lot. So at 10 years old, my father kidnapped me. I say kidnapped because my mother didn't know. He just came one day. I had a really, really good relationship with his family, his mom and his sister. So I knew him, but I didn't know him. That was probably when he came to pull me from my mom's house. It was like maybe the 3rd time I'd seen him. So I went to live with him and his wife and my sister, because they had a child together. He was also addicted to drugs and was molesting me. So in that period of my life, it was, you know, probably, I would have rather stayed home, you know, in Hillside Court with my mother running the streets and me being alone home with my baby brother. But it was, you know, a really bad situation. Fast forward, moved around because I told, and so I bounced around from house to house. Ended up with his mother and my aunt. But by the time I got to them, I was angry and bitter, had lots of trauma. So as a high school, I was very promiscuous. And my thing was, you know, people end up turning to what, drugs, or food, or shopping, or whatever. My thing was sex. And the newness of the relationship, because whenever you get into a new relationship, it was instant gratification for me.
Yes, it was.
You know, in that moment. So in my 11th grade year, I pretty much failed because I was smoking marijuana, cutting class a lot, but I would never do hardcore drugs because watching my mother.
Never. I'm 33. Friends, people around me, never.
Yes.
I never. Like I don't care what drives to me. I'm never.
So watching her shoot up and all of that, that kind of like turns you
my
off.
grandma. My grandma did her whole life.
So you just, you don't, you know, so
so
marijuana was it for me.
Right.
And then I never learned how to roll because I felt like that was the next level thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did meet a gentleman in my 11th grade, end of my 11th grade year. He was 28, I was 17. And that relationship, that was the first person that instilled in me, get an education, do better for yourself. Even though he was my boyfriend, he, you know, was that male figure in my life I never had. So that pushed me. For my senior year, I doubled up, and I ended up graduating from high school, taking summer classes, and then he left me for a wife I didn't even know he had. He went back to school.
Oh no.
So that kind of like spurred my whole dreams of, you know, going to school, because here I am now. All the devastation of the trauma just sent me back for a loop. And I ended up meeting this guy that I barely knew, moved to Connecticut, who ended up being my first son, my son's father. So God is so good because even in the midst of my mess, he was still good to me, because his family, even though he and I fought a lot, his family was amazing. They were the first individuals to really teach me about being a black woman. And understanding. Mr. George Brown was the second one to really talk about being a black woman in America. So that, you know, it's like throughout life, you know, like people would just sow seeds and and so anyway, I didn't say
I want to stop you right now.
please.
You say he taught you how to be a black woman. What did he do?
I didn't say teach me.
Oh, showed you.
He sowed some seeds.
Oh, okay.
He sowed some seeds about
Yeah.
being a black woman.
Because I
In
want to know
America.
what he gave you.
So let me tell you, let me give you a little bit more of that.
Right.
See, living in the South to me is very different than living in the North.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Because
It is.
I felt like we are so brainwashed here
Mhm.
in terms of like our blackness and our understanding of who we are. So when I went to Connecticut, you know, they were just really about pro-blackness and about
Yeah.
being yourself and natural.
That's
You
right.
know, and then
That's
so I
right.
learned a lot of that. And so when I came back, Mr. Brown always talked about, you know, just being black, just
Yeah.
being loving yourself and, you know, just being natural. And so that's what I mean about that.
Black
He didn't
woman.
teach me, but
Yeah.
he sowed some seeds.
Seeds.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so I would listen to him a lot when he would talk.
Well, you wasn't to that point yet.
Hmm?
You know, you was talking about your relationship with Hassan's father and
Yes,
you know,
yes. So
start
going
right
back
there.
there.
Yeah.
So
But
he,
this is interesting to me because
he-
you know I didn't know all this.
I know you
Go
didn't.
ahead.
I know you didn't. So he was abusive, and so I came back to Virginia because what I was not going to do is, you know, once my son was born, it was like, oh my goodness, like, you know, looking at another person, I wanted more for him.
Right.
You know, at that point, it wasn't just about me, it was about saving, well, not even saving, but protecting him. And so we moved down. I, you know, was in subsidized housing, and I enrolled in community college because when I graduated, remember, I was horrible in high school.
Right.
So my GPA was really low.
Mhm.
So I got into community college and was on the dean's list. So I was a single mother. I went to school, went to work, took care of my son. And then it was extremely challenging, but nevertheless, I wanted more. And then I ended up getting married to someone I grew up with. I didn't love myself, so that relationship was built on a lot of lies and just, you know, it just, but I learned a lot from it. I had two beautiful daughters as a result of it, and then I just kept going. So here I was, a mother, a wife, and I also worked at the bank, and I went to school. I got an undergrad degree in psychology. I was the first to graduate in my family. And then when I was in college, when I was getting my undergrad, I was pregnant with my third child, and my professor saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And here's another person sowing seeds, like, you need to go forward, go move, you know, go to get your master's. So I applied for the master's program and got my master's degree. So I've been working
Congratulations.
for Henrico County Schools for the last 17 years as a school social worker. And I'm still wanting more because I'm working on my clinical license. So I'm like almost there. Just got past this exam. Just kicking my butt. But other than that, so that's my story. And we did end up divorcing after 10 years. So even in the midst of being a single mother, raising, my son had an educational disability, my daughter has significant mental health issues, and I did it by myself.
That's right.
But I wake up every day with a forgiving heart
Yes.
and a willing mind. And so
That
forgiveness.
forgiveness thing, that
Yes.
just registered with me, forgiving.
Yes.
You know.
That's
And
huge.
then having said this, but that's how I met Jeanette. Was her husband was one of my best friends.
Okay.
You know, and both of them are still best friends of mine. You know, I'm always, you know, I guess sentimental when people don't stay together. You know, but I mean, life is life.
Yeah, life is life.
You know, but
That's what I had.
I thought she had more that she could tell you about the story.
How old are you, kid?
What
But she told us a lot.
not just
Yeah, because I want to know about this
Yeah.
forgiveness.
So y'all can ask
How old
me.
are you?
So my son is 30, and my middle one is 25, and the baby's 21. And I do have a 5-year-old grandson.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to know about this forgiving thing, because it's a hard thing.
Oh my goodness. Okay. forgiveness is a powerful tool.
It
And I
is.
not only had to forgive my father,
Right.
I had to forgive my mother, I had to forgive myself, I had to forgive my ex-husband. Like I had to forgive everyone. So what I started doing is I created in my home a meditation room.
Okay.
And so I meditate and pray every morning.
Yeah.
But I journal a lot.
Me too.
And so, you know, in it, I asked God to cleanse my heart and my soul, and I actually really go through the process of forgiving people. Sometimes, like, I've not had a chance to verbally tell my ex-husband to forgive me, or because we don't speak at all. We kind of,
Right. So it's easy to say you forgive somebody when you can't see them.
not necessarily to me, because it's hard to me because of the closure. For me, I'm the type of person that needs closure.
Right. Exactly.
So I had to write out a letter of forgiveness.
Okay.
And, you know, kind of like rip it up or, you know, throw it out once I wrote
Right.
it out. But I think the
Like
hardest
drinking something.
one for me was my father on his dying bed, when he was actually on a ventilator, and I wanted to pull the plug.
Ooh.
And I did in that moment because I didn't realize how much hurt was still embedded in me,
Right.
you know, from it, because I had said to him in person, I forgive you. But what I've learned is we can forgive people for pockets of things,
Yeah.
but there's something else that we
Yeah.
don't even know until it's triggered.
Yeah.
You know, like that he did or said that I hadn't forgiven him for.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, in that moment, I did tell him I forgive him, and that I would only tell his grandkids nice things about him, that I wouldn't,
Oh.
you know, display any negativity. But and then after that, he died.
Okay.
So that was probably the hardest.
Mine was to write everything down and bury it in my mother's backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
I
good too.
had to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Next.
I'm a single parent too. It's hard. It's hard. But I be pushing. If it wasn't for him, I would have been gave up. But I'm still pushing.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Next.
Tasha. Yeah.
You got anything to say? Oh yeah, my son father passed when he was 3. And he's 17 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So just me and him, always me and him. In Jacksonville for 11 years. Hillside too, and I've been here already 2 years. But I ain't want him. He's devastated in the projects. So he go to Huguenot in 11th grade.
Okay.
So he stayed with his grandma, his dad and mom, because that's her son passed, so that's the closest she got is my son. So he stayed with her to go to school.
Okay.
But I still got full custody. Ain't nobody doing that. Full custody. And I'm not paying no child support. Nothing came on me. No, I'm not.
Well, you do share what you have
Mm-hmm.
with him. That's very good.
Yep, we got it on.
So, when you decided that you was gonna make a change with your education, how hard was that? In the 11th grade, when you decided, you know, I'm gonna start taking school seriously.
So in that moment, it wasn't hard.
Okay.
Because like I said, you know, I had somebody in my ear in my life,
Okay.
you know, that kind of demanded that of me,
Right.
and expected that.
Mhm.
So it really wasn't hard to change it.
Right.
But I've always felt like there's something
Like
inside.
something to
Water.
drink,
Oh,
some
no,
water,
thank
some
you.
juice.
I'm good.
This
You
good.
sure?
Huh?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Okay.
Something that, you know, just always wanted more. You
Right.
know, like it was something inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So to ignite it, sometimes it may have taken like someone or something to
Right.
kind of push it, but it wasn't hard. Yeah, not at all.
So anybody that want to aspire to get their master's degree and become, you know, a clinical psychologist or whatever is reachable, right?
It is. I think the hardest part is actually planning it and doing it. You know, like applying it. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, just doing the work to
Mhm.
get there. I think
Right.
that's probably the hardest part. But once you do that and then you do, you know, you do the work, you're better. I mean, it's a little bit more easier, but actually sitting down and knowing where to go to apply and, you know, getting into the school and getting the monies that you need and all of that, that takes work and discipline.
Okay.
But there are people out here to help. You know, I think too, a lot of times, sometimes we're too prideful to ask for help.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
Okay.
I know that's right.
Alright.
Go ask if I need something. So I think that's the biggest thing as well.
Right. I didn't know you was gonna zip through your life.
I
so
didn't know
quickly.
either.
What was your experience with going to college? What was that like?
So I was a mom.
Yeah.
Well, let me keep it real. At the end of the master's degree, I ended up on solo with antidepressant.
Yeah.
So why did you resort to that? Was it because you needed to stay up long hours?
No.
Or you just
What
was
is that?
frustrated?
First of all, I had
Solo.
Zolo. I was on antidepressants. Number one, I had 3
I think I
kids.
take that now for the
I had 3 children.
Okay.
Well, genetically predisposed to depression anyway. 'Cause
Right.
That's, family. That's something that's been prevalent in my family.
Okay.
But, so I had the 3 children, a
Right.
husband, and I had boyfriend. Let me tell you.
Right.
I know Daryl told you.
Yeah.
I know your friend told you.
So I was trying to keep up with all that.
Yeah.
So in the school. So it was a lot. It was a lot for
Right.
me. And so I was the guilt, the shame, and just trying to keep up with my studies because I graduated still with a 4.0.
Yeah.
I don't know how,
Right.
but I did.
Yeah, that's
You
good.
were
And I worked the
determined.
job.
Right.
So
You were determined.
yeah, I was determined.
But see, when I met you,
Oh.
I don't remember you being as confident as you
I
are
had
now.
low self-esteem, and my husband was very good at making it worse. Like he just was
Like you
abusive.
didn't show it out.
You didn't know that, but he was very
No.
abusive.
Yeah, that's how I view it. It was an
to
in-home,
talk
so
about
when
him,
you
he's not
outside.
here to defend himself.
No,
Yeah.
But
no, but I'm not really
he was
trying
a-
to get you to talk about that.
yeah,
I'm just trying to.
but I did. I'm trying to tell you, I had very low self-esteem,
Right.
and he was abusive. And so
Yeah, that's how I be.
I wasn't
That's
confident in
a
myself. I second guessed myself a lot.
Right.
It's not until I had my really sought God and got a relationship with God.
That's right.
I learned to love
That's
myself.
Right.
And really, when the confidence came. Because, yeah. And I think, too, pushing myself, some of that, just thinking about it, came from, trying to be something, trying to better myself and people please and all of that came into to play. And I think that might have pushed me as well, trying to be something instead of always being told that.
I was always happy every time I would hear that you achieved another goal. Were you going to law school at one time or thinking about it?
Huh?
Were you thinking about going to law school or something at one time?
No.
Once you finish your master's,
right, I was going to do my PhD.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay, that's what
but then with the 3 kids,
right.
when I became a single parent and having to deal with, they became priority, so that pushed that.
So are you still considering
See,
it?
that's how
No, I'm doing the clinical instead of the PhD. Because
So-
it's not so much I can do with a social worker PhD. I mean, you can,
Okay,
mostly
so
professor at a college, but
you don't want
with the clinical license, I can, so my goal is to be able to go into the community and provide services,
Okay.
to our people.
Yeah, that's what we doing. That's our job.
So with the clinical license, you don't have to go to school. You just have someone that you're actually under that has a license. And so what we do is school-based mental health. And so I get to do a lot of counseling. I work at an alternative school. Virginia Randolph, you ever heard of it? Yeah. So that's what I get an opportunity to do. And once you practice that, so the big thing is, passing the exam. 4 hours, 180 questions. So once I pass that, then I'll become officially licensed. but I'm practicing now.
Mm,
without a
right,
license, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But under someone else's.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that like another type of practice where you can have your own like office and
Yeah.
they would, so you can get clients, you could build up a client base
Right.
and I'm kind of thinking that's what Marvin does. You know Marvin Rowan?
Mm.
No,
No.
I'm thinking that that's what Marvin does because he has, you know, young folks that he meets with
Yeah.
and he talks with them about what's going on with their life and all of that. Yeah, the client base. But you do want to do that.
Yes.
Right. How the girls?
They're doing well. Leo's still,
That's good.
you know, she's still struggling. She's working, but you know,
Sure.
her mental health is
Really challenging. So.
Right.
But she's doing well.
That's good.
My son is struggling. But
That's all right.
Don't speak that over him.
Like-
Say he's not struggling.
he's not. But the
Yeah.
realization is he's struggling.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to speak.
Yeah.
But that's
But
all
he's
right.
good things.
I
over
do.
him.
All the
Yeah.
time.
You know,
Yeah,
like-
I do. I do.
Life
He's
don't
a-
start
he's a
till
good
40
boy.
anyway, so,
Yeah.
so he got
He's
10
my
more years.
only son. That's
Yeah.
that's it.
It's all right. He's a good man.